Now what's happening today is we have a giant snowstorm outside. So one of the things I thought I'd do some work inside at the shop. And the fairings are ready to start doing some work, but this is one of the things I try to encourage everybody that's going to do one of these jobs. You take a fairing off a bike that's 20, 30 years old, it almost inevitably has been repainted at least once, or it's been repaired. And I wanted to show some of this. I'm not sure if you can see it. This one has been repaired here, here, some JB Weld up here, some broken tabs here. It looks like this part has been extensively repaired. This part up here looks broken. But the good news is that we have all the parts. We don't have to make any parts here. Now what I did here is, there was I think the blinkers went here. I made this carbon fiber part because I want to Bondo over that eventually. But this part, now with what I did, just to skip forward a little bit, so I wouldn't bore anybody to death. Maybe I'm already going to bore you to death anyway. I took this part, sanded some of the paint off, got rid of the stickers, of course, with a heat gun. Very carefully, try not to take chunks of paint out. But this is going to be the easier of the two to fix. Now this one's been repaired. Again, you got to look. This one's been repaired up here by you never know who. Now, but what I wanted to show, now it just happens Najat had his Ducati parts here that were in the track day spill, and they're gonna need some tabs fixed. So I thought I'd do a little demo. Now these tabs, you see, the parts, they've already been glued in place, but once something breaks, this has been fixed up here already. What I want to do is, the whole idea of this whole thing is that it doesn't break again. So I wanted to show my little, I don't know, method, I guess, whatever it is, to reinforce some of these parts. And I'll pick an easy one for the just to make it so it makes sense. Now, this would be a typical one right down here. Now, what I'll do is, let me see if I can do it this way. I know this is a little awkward, but you know, I'm not Steven Spielberg either, so. If I look at this, first thing I want to do is get a little piece of sandpaper, put that aside. I want to get some acetone, and notice how this is, Najat painted my acetone can, but believe me, it really is acetone. Anytime you have an old part, before you do anything, you want to clean off the grease, the grit, especially if it's a track day bike. It's almost guaranteed going to have some, let's call it schmutz for lack of a better word. So I want to go around and clean these areas that I think I'm going to reinforce. Look for this one up here, looks like a beauty. And you can tell this has been repainted with not factory paint, that's for sure. But all the parts are in place, and I know these all line up, so that makes this a reasonable thing. But step one would always be, before you do any of this, clean it with acetone. Now, there's no case at all that this is the only way to repair things. There's a million different ways to repair things. But this is one way, I think, that I've learned from a long time of repairing model planes, for one, that you can do very quickly and very efficiently. So this is really 220 paper, 180 paper, doesn't even matter. We want to roughen the surface up. That's step one. And I know if these parts have been broken and I don't reinforce them, what's going to happen, I'm going to spend a ton of time repairing them. And what's going to happen is they're going to break again. Now once that's roughened up, I wanted to introduce people to, this is cyanoacrylate. This is, and I buy it from Brodak. You can go to brodaks.com and have it sent right to your house. This is the accelerator. It makes it dry quicker. The blue tube is thin, it penetrates. This is good for building up a surface. But here's what's nice about doing this. I'm going to go over to my little bag of scraps. I'm going to try to do this a couple of different ways so people can see, and it's just for giggles anyway. I take the thin. You don't want to get this on your hands. This will glue your fingers together or glue your fingers to whatever it touches. So I just want to put a little bit of it on there. And this is a real good quality product as opposed to what you buy in Home Depot, say. I want to just get that on there. Just touch it down. Make sure it's capillary. And it's basically dry already. Now, the reason you know it's dry, you can touch it. Well, that would be fine. Except I want to reinforce it even a little more. So what I'll do is saturate that part. And if I were fixing a model plane, and we certainly have done a lot of that, or fixing a motorcycle, the repair isn't that much different. You can take a little Q-tip. Again, don't touch it with your bare hands. And all this does is, if you have the little broken part, you want to be able to reinforce it. That's the whole idea we're doing this, is that you can reinforce it. You can do this with 5-minute epoxy. You can do this with, you know, a lot of different kinds of glue, but this way is the quickest, and believe me, it's the strongest. There's not many glues that I've found that you can do this high quality of a repair in this amount of time, and I'm guessing this is going to be 5 minutes per tang. Now, in the Najat's case, the Ducati parts are extremely thin. Of course, it's a high-performance bike. They're looking to save weight, but those very thin parts, it doesn't take much to break them. So here we are. If we know we've already broken them once, there's no reason not to reinforce them. And this makes for a pretty nice repair. Now, if you're in a rush, and you don't want to take this and spray it right on there like you'd use in Windex. You want to kind of just let it rain down on there from a foot or two away. What that does, it accelerates the cure. So now, while it's curing, I can rub this, and as soon as I see the cotton is sticking on there, I know I've got a bond. Now I can touch it with my bare hands. Now, even right at this point, it's still sticky. I can take a piece of sandpaper, just make it a little bit neater. It'll bring up some of the fibers. And again, we're not trying to make this any more difficult or any fancier than it has to be. Now, because I've gone through the fibers, I can add just one more layer of this. And this is really the good trick, is while this is drying, the fibers tend to stick right into what they are. Of course, if you're not careful, you wind up gluing your hand. Now, usually if you were doing epoxy, this would have to dry or some amount of time. Now I could take an ordinary X-Acto knife, a number 11 blade. Now, cyanoacrylate, especially if you buy it fresh, it has a shelf life. So I always try to buy it from Brodak.com because, simple reason, it's fresh. He sells a lot of it. He's the biggest hobby distributor in the world, at least for our products. Now, I'm just carefully cutting this around. I don't have to get it right to the very end. I'll show why in 1 second. This is just to get rid of the extra CA, because this extra CA is now stronger than the part around it. And when we do Najat's fairings, of course we'll try to do at least one of them. I want him to become familiar, since he's becoming a track day guy. And anybody who knows, if you're going to become a track day guy, you're going to be repairing stuff from time to time. Now I've got the most of it off. I can make it a little fancier, even though this is going to be inside. Now, this material that we just added here, the most common way to do this is with JB Weld. People use JB Weld, yeah, that's fine, and it probably works well, but this you can do really quickly. You can see we've spent less than 5 minutes. A little bit of sandpaper on there. And that's a part that I would venture to guess is not going to be prone to breaking again, unless of course we crash the bike. But the idea of doing this, let me back this up a little bit. The idea of doing this is we're going to put a lot of time into getting this paint work, the buffing, the sanding, the clear, custom decals from John Pothier, among other things. When all that work is done, and let me just like show and tell this. When I do this and bring it up to this level of finishing, and the fairing of course is going to look just like this. So when it's all done and I have all the parts buffed out, I don't want to now have, and what usually happens, I hate to say it, but it is true, what usually happens is the more time you put into a part, the thicker the paint gets, the more prone it is to cracking. Now a little example of that is right in here. If you look real close, right here, you can see what's happened. There's a little crack there. Well, little cracks are nice. One drop of thin CA gets in there. It's capillary. We can't really sand inside there. Doesn't matter what gets on the outside. Now, before it even dries, I can put a drop of the thick in. That'll protect it just a little bit. Again, small things, and these are the fibers, by the way, in E-glass. When you go to AutoZone and buy fiberglass, this is what you buy. It's called E-glass. Carbon fiber is a little stronger. Kevlar is somewhere in between. We have all of those materials in-house. So when I look at this now, I want to squeeze this joint together. As I'm putting it together, just rain down a very little bit of the CA. And as soon as I see it, it'll usually smoke just a little bit. I can put one more drop of this in there, just for safety's sake. And just one tiny little drop. The less of this, the other choice, if you don't use this, you can just wait 3 to 5 minutes and it'll kick off by itself. It's always good, all CA should be kept in a refrigerator unless you use it, not a freezer. Keep it in a refrigerator, no matter what kind of work you're doing. Okay, that now is a part. I even keep the little lids on it. Now I can take a little piece of sandpaper, roll it up. Just get in there. I know that crack is not going to spread like a crack on a windshield. Every time you hit a bump, it gets bigger. Now, I want to look around for some other, let's just see if I can focus in on something here that would be of some value to look at. Let's see how this went together. Now that's, to me, it looks like epoxy. It might be hot glue, I don't know. Some kind of epoxy. If it's real hard, it's probably epoxy. But again, I'm going to go through the same process, clean it with acetone, sand it down, lay a little piece of E-glass. E-glass fits right in. Now, let me show a couple of other little things, because these are just little things that I think will help. And the whole objective of this whole thing is to try to help. Because obviously we're not getting rich. This is carbon fiber. This is a roll of, it's called tow. You can tow a car with this. It's just called tow for whatever reason. I can take a piece of this tow, as strong as it might be, and carbon fiber has, the thing with any carbon fiber, it has tremendous strength in one direction, but none in the other direction. And it'll suit our needs right there to keep a crack from happening. I can take a little piece of this, and I want it to go back to that crack, because what will happen if I don't do this, that crack is going to ultimately come back. It's going to be a problem. So I can, let me see if I can, maybe I can do this on camera here, nice and easy, if I can do it. It's hard to locate the camera where I want. This is the tow. I still have the acetone. I can get that in there. Again, the other choice would be just take a spoon on of JB Weld. That'd probably work too. But this is a lot stronger than JB Weld. Now, I can get my little piece of sandpaper, just roughen it up just a little bit. Rougher the better. And again, this is a very easy, simple kind of repair. I can take some thick CA in this case, since it's an awkward shape. And I really don't want this breaking once I put all this work into it. Put some Q-tips here. Take one end of the toe. And what'll happen as I rub it with the Q-tip, the dust in the Q-tip will make the CA start to kick off. It won't totally kick off, but it'll start turning a little sticky and a part will stick down a little bit better each time. And when you feel it starting to stick, you know you're almost done. Okay, that's getting ready to stick. Just the slightest little bit. Keep pressing it down, pressing it down. You don't want to press it and hold it. It'll stick. What I'm doing is I'm just pushing it down and taking the Q-tip away. Push it down, take the Q-tip away. Okay, once I get to this point, it's pretty easy now. I can just take a razor, a knife, trim this off. Let's see what that looks like, see if you can see it. Now I've got all the strength in this direction too, so that's a pretty good repair. That's really a good repair, in fact. Now I want to add a little bit of thin. Now if I were doing this with epoxy, I'd have to wait some amount of time for it to cure and dry and whatever. The CA is, I think, stronger, maybe arguably stronger. And all the repairs I've done to fairings, especially those side panels where the little tabs hang out, they always break. Any kind of a little accident. Now I'll just make sure this is a dangerous part of it because you can get a carbon fiber splinter. I'm just touching it. What happens is the dust from the carbon fiber sanding gets into the material and makes like a putty or a paste. I don't know what you want to call it now. Okay, so now I have that piece down. Now I can add a final coat. Take a Q-tip. And I'm going to go around, before I go to any painting or grinding or Bondo work, the first part, and doing any old part, and these parts I think they're 89, well, they're old. Like me, they're old. We don't use that word old, we try not to be negative about it. And if you look at this repair now, and probably within 10-15 minutes, we've done two really good repairs that have stacked the odds in our favor that these parts are not going to. Let me see if I can get it close. It's hard to get it. Believe me, it's difficult to do this. It looks easy when you see Steven Spielberg or whoever. When you have unlimited money, everything's easy. Anyway, we're going to do a couple of these off camera, like this one here. And let me just show one other thing. It's already been done, but I thought I might as well show it. And actually, I should have showed these on camera anyway. These are the tabs that I always say. They're on the back of all of these type of parts. They all have a... These two were broken when I got the bike. I fixed them. They broke again. You can see the carbon fibers around there. So I finally, ultimately, what I did is I wrapped carbon fiber around the whole part, filled it with CA. I don't think there's any way on earth that's going to break now. Famous last words. But anyway, just to put that aside, and for anybody, this might be an interesting time to do this, because we have a minute or two left here before my battery goes dead. Let me take that fairing out, because I will do that. And it's amazing. Let me move the camera. I wanted to just do a material description of some of the things that are useful. Now, the CA is really useful for doing a million things. Motorcycles, airplanes, boats, guitars. We used it on Rob's guitar to do a repair, among other things. This is the kicker. All of that stuff is available from Brodak. You just look up brodak.com and you can have it sent right to your house. Now, you don't need the purple Najat can anymore. Material. When you're doing a repair, there's this thin material available from Brodak that you can do repairs on the outside of parts. And I have, these are scraps. This is a little bit heavier fiberglass, but not as thick as, this is 2 ounce. What you buy in AutoZone is 4 or 6 or 8 ounce. Then you have what you buy in AutoZone, this is 4 ounce. It can come 4 ounce or 6 ounce, they make boats out of this with polyester resin. Then you have this material that we all know as carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is way stronger than this material. E-glass is the least strong. Then you have Kevlar. This is Kevlar. You make bulletproof vests out of whatever. We have yards of that. These are from projects that we worked on over the years. But a lot of people don't understand, and I thought it's just interesting if I could explain it. E-glass, relatively inexpensive, relatively easy to use. This will bend around corners, make easy to sand too. Kevlar in between, a little stronger, able to do things, it absorbs shock a lot better than carbon. And then there's hybrid material that's half carbon and half e-glass. Then you have real carbon fiber, it's all carbon fiber. Then you have carbon fiber that's made in a twill. It's what I made the mufflers for the R1s out of, so that it's got a very pretty look to it. And then there's a million different kinds of carbon fiber. There's different weaves that bend around corners. There's, just to show, I know we've got a minute here to, and I'm sure somebody out there is interested in this. There's a material that you can buy that's half carbon fiber and half e-glass to save money. And then there's this material, when they make a boat and they blow it out of a hose, they just blow on fiberglass. You have this, it looks like string. Again, the reason I have a lot of this material is because over the years, I've tried using it. I have used it. And this is the most expensive, is when you buy a roll of tow. A roll of tow this is about $400. But when you're using it, and we would make various parts over the years out of carbon fiber, what happens in the end of the day, I never throw the scraps away, because little pieces like this is where I just made the repair. I'm not even going to throw this away, because when you go to buy this stuff is expensive. So actually, why spend the money if you don't have to? Now, having said that, I want to just do one other thing here while we're dealing with the fairings. We got the 2 fairings, and maybe I'll make a little video of this. I'm not sure. It seems like an awful lot of people have been enjoying working on this track bike. My goal here was to fill this area in so that this would be smooth. I had originally made this carbon fiber part, but from this point on it's going to have to be really sanded. The Bondo is going to have to go in here. It's going to have to be sanded, ground. This is going to have to be sanded off, and you can see where some of the dents are in this part. But some of the holes, and I think I already marked them on here. Yeah, I put on here, fill these holes, some juke coming out of there. But now that we have some of the repairs done on this, one of the things, we're starting to build up some time and money invested in this part. Well, just when I got the motorcycle, it really needed a lot of work. And we're going to give it that work. We're basically going to spend the rest of the winter on this. But I'm hoping, and it's just like the gas tank, I'm hoping that eventually we're going to have a really beautiful gas tank. Sometime later this week, the decals are going to come in. We're going to do a demo on putting the decals on, and then maybe if we do, it's snowing so bad now I can't do much. And I figured there's always one thing I love to do at the end of the day. Now, what I do is I try to get up early in the morning. This is really funny. I know Ray in Florida, anybody that lives in a warm weather climate is going to love this. Go to my shop, take the high security system out, and that's what you look at early in the morning. Oh, welcome to New Jersey. Anyway, while it's snowing like this, we're going to be working on that fairing. Maybe I'll be able to make another video of some of the other work we're doing. So I hope you've enjoyed sharing these little adventures and pick up some information that possibly you can use somewhere in your life.